In this video, I'm going to give you a quick overview of the Blender interface. So when you first open Blender, you should see a window that looks something like this. I'm going to start with just a general file. And when you open that, you start with just this basic cube centered at the origin. To navigate around the screen, it's much like other 3D software. If I hold down on my scroll wheel, I can rotate left and right. If I hold shift while doing that, I can pan around in the screen. I can use the scroll wheel to zoom in and out. If I right click, I'm going to bring up a menu based on whatever I right clicked on, and then left clicking will select and deselect items. Over here on the left, we have some of our commonly used tools. By default, we have the select box, which basically just means I can select everything in this scene by clicking and dragging. The cursor, the move tool. If I grab this red handle, you'll see that it only drags along the x-axis. The green will move along the y-axis. The blue on the z-axis. We have the rotate tool, same thing. We can see that we have the green, the red, the blue, so I can rotate around Z, rotate around X, etc. And then the scale. Same thing, I can scale just on the Z-axis, just on the X-axis, etc. Some keyboard shortcuts for doing the same thing. Let me go back up and select this. I can hit G on the keyboard, and that will allow me to move it around just like the move tool over here. We do G for grab. If I were to hit G and then Z, I can only move it on the Z axis. If I hit G and then X, I can only move on the X. If I hit Y, only on the Y. Same thing for rotate. If I hit R, I can rotate in any direction, but if I hit R and then Z, now I can only rotate on the Z axis. X, I can only rotate on the x-axis, and y only on the y-axis. Then same thing for scaling. If I hit S to scale, I can scale in all directions until I hit one of the axes. If I hit X, now I'm only scaling on the x-axis, y, and z. Okay, so those are some of your keyboard shortcuts for moving things around, scaling them. Let's delete this. So if I want to delete it, I just simply right click on it and I go down to delete, or I can select it and hit X on the keyboard and that'll bring up this little menu and I can then hit delete, or finally I can select it and then hit delete on the keyboard. So 3 options for deleting. And I want to import the monkey just so it's easier to tell the views that we're in. So I am going to do Shift A. And Shift A is the same as going up to this little add up here. So you can see up here we have view, select, add, and object. I'm just going to the add menu. I'm going to go down to mesh and I'm going to add the monkey. But I usually do Shift A to bring it up wherever I'm at. Then I'm going to go to mesh and I'm going to add in the monkey. Now the reason I did this is because I want to show you the different views. So I already showed you that you can press down on the scroll wheel and you can zoom around, but sometimes we want to jump straight to a view like top view, side view, front view, etc. So over on the numpad, not the numbers at the top of the keyboard, but on the numpad, you'll need to make sure your lock key is selected to make sure your numpad is working. If I hit 1, that takes me to front view. If I hit 3, that will take me to side view. And if I hit 7, that takes me to top view. So 1 front, 3 side, 7 top. But let's say I want to do the opposite of those. Right now I'm on top. Let's say I want to see the bottom. Well, if I hit Control 7, now I get the bottom. 7 top, Control 7 bottom. 1, Control 1 front back. 3 side, Control 3 other side. So those are going to be some common views that you'll want to use to quickly jump around and view the different angles. Another shortcut on the numpad is the 0 key. So if I hit 0, this is actually what the scene is going to render like. So what I'm seeing here is just my editing window. That's not the actual render window. So when I render this scene, it's going to render whatever view this camera up here is actually seeing. So we actually have a camera in our scene and we can see kind of where it is pointing. So if I hit 0, that's what would actually render in our scene. Okay, and then just looking at some of the other things that we'll get into a lot more as we get later in the course. Up here we can see that we are on the layout and we're in object mode, so I can't really edit this right now. But if I switch to edit mode, now I can actually start clicking and doing things to edit the object. Go back to object mode, and I'm no longer in that edit mode. I can move it around, but I can't actually edit the actual mesh. A shortcut for that is just hitting the tab key. So if I hit tab, I'm now in edit mode, hit tab again, I'm back in object mode. Then up here we have the modeling tab, the sculpting tab. We'll be using some to create some of our characters, the UV editing and texture painting to start changing the appearance, the shading tab where we can add in our lighting effects, the animation tab where we can then animate things, and then finally we'll be rendering them. So these are some of the tabs that we will be using, but for now we'll just be staying in the layout for the most part. And then finally over on the right, up here we have everything that's in our scene. So we can see that right here Suzanne. They named their monkey Suzanne. So when I select the monkey, you can see that gets selected. If I wanted to find the light, if I zoom out and click on the light icon, we can see that it just selected the light. Camera, it's out of the view right now. There it is. So right there's my camera. If I were to hide any of these, okay, we now can no longer see the camera or the light. Hide Suzanne, and now she's gone. So we can use that icon to hide things. We can also expand each of these to see what's in there. And obviously with Suzanne, there's just one object inside that folder. Same thing with the light and the camera, but we could add additional items within those. So that's your collection. And then down here we have all the different properties. So we can see that Suzanne's location, we have not moved Suzanne. So she is still centered at 0, 0, 0 on the origin. So if I wanted to move her, we already saw that we can use the move tool or hit the G for grab. But I can also come over here and I can give more precise locations by typing in the values. And same thing for rotation and scale. And there are a number of other properties that we will be getting into, but these are your properties for each of the objects. This is your scene. We have some additional things. I guess I skipped over this. These are your different viewport shading options. We'll get into that more when we do the materials. So you really don't need to worry much about that right now. You have your different layout tabs and your common tools. So that is the Blender layout in a very quick overview. So next we will actually start making and editing some models.